You threw me $1, I turned it into a brand.
I'm 46 and own a custom metal workshop in Tennessee called Peterson Fabrication. I build high-end barbecue smokers, the kinds serious pitmasters save years to buy. These aren't basic grills from a hardware store. I'm talking precision-engineered steel that'll outlast the buyer. My workshop is my sanctuary, 1,500 square feet of welding equipment and half-finished projects. I've got permanent grease under my fingernails and a mortgage I paid off 3 years early. I was married to Jessica for 23 years. She's beautiful, ambitious, and worked in corporate marketing, doing something with brand strategy I never fully understood despite hundreds of explanations. We have 4 kids. Ethan just turned 18 and is heading to trade school. The twins Ryan and Sophie are 15. Emma is 12 and still thinks I'm the greatest. For our first 5 years of marriage, I attended Jessica's company events. I made small talk with people who thought hard work meant difficult spreadsheets. They'd ask what I really did, like building smokers was a hobby between real jobs. Around year 5, Jessica stopped inviting me. She said I didn't fit the culture, that my jokes were too rough. She went alone to parties and corporate retreats. I convinced myself this was normal. I stayed home, worked on my business, coached Little League, and told myself couples don't need to do everything together. 3 weeks ago, Jessica walked into my workshop and said I had to come to her company's holiday party. Not that she wanted me there, but that I had to come. After 5 years of specific exclusion, suddenly, I was mandatory. That's not an invitation. That's a warning sign. The event was at the Riverside Grand Hotel, one of those places where they employ someone just to open doors. The lobby had marble floors and crystal chandeliers that cost more than my first truck. I wore my funeral suit. Jessica insisted I get a haircut at my regular barber instead of her $70 salon. Jessica wore a red dress that could have caused accidents. The ballroom was packed with her coworkers dressed like they were attending the Oscars. Open bar, expensive liquor, tiny artistic food. Jessica immediately transformed into her work personality, laughing louder, using corporate buzzwords without irony. She introduced me to colleagues whose names I forgot immediately. "This is my husband, Mike. He builds smokers." Then she'd quickly pivot away, like I was an embarrassing fact to acknowledge but not discuss. I was on my second drink when he appeared. Tyler Hayes materialized like a villain. Polished, smooth, perfect hair, the confidence of someone who's never assembled furniture at 2 a.m. Jessica's face changed completely when she spotted him. She lit up brighter than Christmas, eyes sparkling. They had instant chemistry, inside jokes, whispered comments. I might as well have been a decorative plant. Tyler barely acknowledged me for 10 minutes. He shook my hand with an trying too hard grip and said, "Oh, you're the husband," like I was a minor character. Then he turned back to Jessica, complimenting her dress, her hair, her recent presentation. They discussed campaigns requiring late nights at the office. My internal alarm was screaming. Then it happened. Tyler turned to me with that smug smile, reached into his wallet, and flicked a $1 bill across the table. It landed in front of my drink. Tyler leaned back, draping his arm near Jessica's shoulders without touching her, and said, "Don't worry, champ. I'll take good care of her tonight." The table erupted in laughter. Jessica's colleagues laughed like it was the funniest thing ever. Jessica looked embarrassed for half a second before joining in. Someone said, "Oh my God, Tyler," like it was inappropriate but hilarious. I sat there watching my wife laugh at a joke about another man taking care of her. I picked up that dollar bill, folded it neatly, and looked Tyler directly in his face. "Thanks," I said, voice calm enough that nearby tables went quiet. "That's the down payment for your hospital bills." The laughter died instantly. Tyler's smile faltered. Jessica's face went pale, then red. I stood up, buttoned my jacket, and walked out. Behind me, I heard Jessica calling my name, but it sounded distant and unimportant. Jessica didn't come home that night. I stayed awake in my workshop at 3 a.m, welding steel with focused aggression. My phone sat silent. No calls, no texts. I tried calling twice around midnight. Both times went straight to voicemail. Around 4:30, I got a bank notification. Jessica had used our joint credit card at the Riverside Grand Hotel at 1:47 a.m. The charge was $387 for a room. I took screenshots and emailed them to myself because divorce court loves documentation. She showed up at dawn in her white BMW. I watched through the workshop window as she fumbled with keys and slipped inside. I waited 10 minutes before walking to the house. She was by the coffee maker wearing yesterday's makeup and Tyler's suit jacket. His monogrammed jacket with initials TH in fancy script on the breast pocket. "Oh, she said when she saw me, voice squeaking. You're up early. Never went to sleep, I said flatly. Where were you? She laughed nervously. I told you I'd be late. The party went long and a bunch of us went to another colleague's suite. I crashed on their couch. She gestured to the jacket. Tyler lent me this. It got cold. Then I saw it above the jacket collar. A mark on her neck. A hickey. At 44, my wife came home with a hickey like a teenager. You've got something on your neck, I said. Her hand flew up to cover it, face cycling through surprise and panic. It's just... I must have burned myself with the curling iron yesterday. The curling iron excuse. I'd been married to her 23 years, watched her get ready thousands of times. She'd never once burned herself with a curling iron. She turned away, busied herself with coffee, started humming, making small talk about weather and dry cleaning, acting like nothing happened, like she hadn't walked in wearing another man's clothes with his mark on her neck. Something inside me broke quietly. That's when I decided the locks were changing today. Sunday morning, I was up at 6, headed to Home Depot, and bought commercial-grade deadbolts. 4 locks, one for every exterior door, plus matching handles. Just under $300. I worked methodically, installing each one in about 20 minutes. Ethan wandered out around 9. Dad, why are you changing all the locks? A home security upgrade, I said, making sure only people who live here can get in. Does Mom know? She's about to find out. That's cold, Dad. Want some help? We worked together on the last 2 doors. When we finished, I gave Ethan a key set with strict instructions not to give them to his mother. I hid a spare in my workshop. Jessica had left for hot yoga around 10. At 6:30, I heard her BMW in the driveway. I sat in the living room with a beer. Ethan was upstairs with his door cracked, definitely listening. I heard her footsteps, her keys jingling, the sound of her trying to insert her key into a lock that no longer recognized her. Silence. Another attempt, harder. Different keys. Mike! She yelled through the door. I let her yell 3 more times before opening it. She stood there in yoga pants, holding her keys like they'd betrayed her. The key isn't working. Yeah, I said, leaning against the doorframe. Neither is our marriage. Her jaw dropped. What? Mike, we need to talk. Let me in so we can have an adult conversation. Adult conversation? That's rich coming from someone who spent Friday night in a hotel room and came home wearing another man's jacket. That's not what happened. You're twisting everything. Go talk to Tyler, I interrupted. The guy who thinks I'm worth $1. The guy whose initials were on the jacket. The guy who left his signature on your neck. I'm sure he'd love to have an adult conversation. She tried the door handle. Actually tried to push past me. I didn't budge. Mike, this is my house too. You can't just lock me out. Actually, I can, and I did. Maybe crash on Tyler's couch tonight. Neighbors started appearing. Mrs. Chen suddenly needed to water dead plants. The Johnsons checked their mailbox for the 3rd time. They weren't being subtle, just standing in yards pretending while listening. Jessica noticed the audience and lowered her voice. You're being unreasonable. Communication ended when you turned our marriage into a group project, I said, loud enough for neighbors to hear. When you added a 3rd person without consent. That's not a marriage, that's a committee, and I'm resigning. She grabbed her phone and stormed to her car, peeling out with illegal acceleration. I waved to the neighbors and went inside. My beer tasted like victory. Next morning brought a thick envelope from a law firm, 3 pages of legal jargon saying Jessica wanted money, spousal support because 23 years entitled her to a percentage of my income forever, equitable asset division, lawyers speak for half of everything. But what made my blood boil was she wanted half of my business, half of Peterson Fabrication, the company I'd built from nothing in a garage, the business she'd called too blue-collar for her image. I called Jack Martinez, my attorney who'd handled business contracts for years. Marriage is dead, I told him. Need help ending it officially. Finally, Jack said. My wife saw Jessica at a restaurant 2 weeks ago with some guy who wasn't you. We figured it was coming. Everyone knew but me. I told Jack about the letter. He laughed. Oh, Mike, you're about to have fun. Come by tomorrow at 9. Bring financial documents. And Mike, stop talking to her. Everything goes through me now. Jack's office was downtown in a glass and steel building. When I showed up with a box of financial documents, Jack was there with coffee and a woman I'd never met. Mike Peterson, meet Linda Chen, Jack said. She's a forensic accountant, best in the business. She'll dig through your finances and find where money goes when people think nobody's looking. Linda shook my hand with a strong grip. Mr. Peterson, I'm sorry you're going through this, but I'm very good at finding financial trails. Call me Mike. I think my wife's been creative with our finances. We sat around Jack's conference table. Linda organized my documents with a system that made sense to her. Jack opened his legal pad. Let's start with basics. Married 23 years, 4 kids. She wants spousal support and half the business. What are we looking at? I ran through the numbers. House worth about $450. Business bringing in roughly $300,000 yearly. Retirement accounts savings. Linda took notes, fingers flying across her keyboard. And she's claiming what grounds? Irreconcilable differences. Code for I got caught cheating. Jack leaned back. Here's what we're doing. Linda will audit your joint accounts, credit cards, any financial activity over the last year. We need to know if she's been hiding money, spending inappropriately. How long does that take? I asked. For someone good, a week, Linda said. For me, 3 days. I'm very motivated by spite, and cheating spouses offend my sense of order. Jack mentioned you think she's been staying in hotels. I know she has. The credit card charge from last Friday, $387 at the Riverside Grand. Linda's fingers flew. What card? Our joint Amex linked to the business account for legitimate expenses. Her eyes narrowed. Your business account? She's been using business funds for personal expenses? She's got authorization for client entertainment. Her job involves wining and dining clients, so I added her years ago. Oh, this is going to be good, Linda said, genuinely excited. I love when spouses forget business accounts have different rules. If she's been claiming personal expenses as business deductions. I gave her login credentials. She started pulling statements, muttering about expense categories. After 20 minutes, Linda looked up with a treasure-finding expression. Mike, when did you last review your business credit card statements? I look at totals monthly. Why? Because your wife has been busy. In the last 6 months alone, she's charged over $40,000 to your business account. Hotels, restaurants, spa days, shopping. There's a Victoria's Secret charge for $600. That a legitimate business expense? My stomach dropped. $40,000? Dead serious. The Riverside Grand appears 11 times in 4 months. Always Friday or Saturday nights. Charges from $300 to $600 per stay. That's not business travel. That's an affair hotel. She scrolled through more. Here's $1,000 at a steakhouse, $2,000 at a spa resort, multiple charges at liquor stores, wine shops. She's been living well on your dime. Can we use this? I asked Jack. We're using the heck out of this, Jack said, grinning like a shark. This destroys her support claim. You can't claim you need money while spending $40,000 on hotels. Linda kept typing. She's been transferring money too, regular transfers from your joint account, $2,000 here, $1,500 there, always to the same place. She pulled up details. Account holder listed as TH Enterprises, LLC. TH, I repeated. Tyler Hayes. She's been funding her boyfriend with our money. Allegedly, Jack said. But yes, probably. Linda, can you trace that LLC? Already on it. TH Enterprises registered in Tennessee 6 months ago. Principal owner Tyler Hayes. Business purpose consulting services. This is clearly a pass-through. We sat there letting it sink in. Jessica hadn't just cheated. She'd been looting our finances to fund her affair, using my business accounts like a piggy bank and transferring money to her boyfriend's shell company. Jack looked at me. Mike, I need to ask something. This Tyler Hayes guy, where does he work? Some tech company. Jessica mentioned it. Something with outdoor products or innovations. What's the full name of your business? The legal entity? Peterson Fabrication and Outdoor Solutions, LLC. I bought out a smaller competitor 5 years ago, kept them running as a subsidiary. They make fire pits and grills, different market than my custom smokers. Jack started laughing. Not politely, but full throw your head back laughter. Mike, what's the name of that subsidiary? Hayes Outdoor Solutions. I kept the name for brand recognition. We operate it separately, different management, different facilities. Why are you... I stopped as my brain caught up. No way. Yes way, Jack said. Linda, pull up the corporate registration for Hayes Outdoor Solutions. She typed and clicked. Parent company, Peterson Fabrication and Outdoor Solutions. LLC. Mike Peterson, sole owner. She looked up. Holy crap. I need to see the employee roster, I said, voice strange. Pull up payroll. Linda navigated to my business accounting, accessed the subsidiary's payroll. There it was. Tyler Hayes, Senior Marketing Director, Hayes Outdoor Solutions, salary $95,000. Reporting structure ultimately reports to me. The guy who threw a dollar bill at his boss. The guy sleeping with my wife using my money, smirking like I was beneath him. That guy cashed a paycheck with my signature every 2 weeks. My laughter was seismic. It started as a chuckle, built to a roar, ended with me wiping tears while Jack and Linda stared. "This is going to be beautiful," I finally said. Jack was already making notes, eyes gleaming. "Mike, we're not just winning this divorce, we're making legal history." Tuesday morning, I arrived at Hayes Outdoor Solutions at 7. My assistant, Kelly, had been with me 12 years and had a sixth sense for when I needed something done quietly. "Morning, boss," she said, already holding out coffee. "You've got that look. Schedule a mandatory meeting for all division heads today. 10 sharp, conference room. Make it sound important but vague." Kelly's eyes narrowed. All division heads means Tyler Hayes, especially Tyler Hayes. She didn't ask questions, just started typing. "Pull Tyler's personnel file. I want it in 20 minutes. By 9:30, I had Tyler's complete employment history. Hired 3 years ago. Decent reviews, nothing spectacular. Notes about boundary issues with female coworkers, nothing actionable. Just observations about him being overly friendly. I also had the dollar bill. I'd kept it in my wallet since the party. I smoothed it out on my desk like a valuable artifact. At 9:45, I walked into conference room A and set up at the head of the table. Division heads started filtering in around 9:55. Susan from operations, Michael from finance, Patricia from HR. Tyler walked in at exactly 10, probably thinking punctuality showed professionalism. He wore another expensive suit, hair perfect, carrying a leather portfolio. He looked confident. Then he saw me at the head of the table and his face drained faster than cheap coffee. All color vanished, leaving him newspaper gray. His eyes went wide. "Morning, everyone," I said casually. "Thanks for making time. Please sit down." Everyone sat. Tyler remained standing a beat too long before lowering himself 3 seats away. His hands shook as he opened his portfolio. "Morning, Tyler," I said, looking directly at him. "I heard you had an interesting night last Friday. How's Jessica doing?" The room went dead silent. Susan physically recoiled. Patricia got very interested in her notepad. Michael looked like he was calculating legal liability. Tyler opened his mouth, closed it, tried again. Mr. Peterson, I'm not sure what you're—" "Oh, I think you know exactly what I'm referring to," I said lightly. "The company party at the Riverside Grand, the one where you were very generous with your financial offerings." I reached into my jacket and pulled out the dollar bill, unfolded it slowly, and slid it across the table toward him. It spun on the polished wood before stopping in front of his portfolio. "I think this belongs to you." Tyler stared at it like a live grenade. The silence was thick. I watched emotions flash across his face. Confusion, recognition, horror, panic. "I don't—" he started, voice cracking. "Let me help you out," I said, leaning back. "That's the dollar bill you threw at me, your boss, owner of this company and its parent company, while making a joke about taking care of my wife. Remember now?" Patricia made a noise like her soul leaving her body. Susan covered her mouth. Michael just stared at Tyler. "Mr. Peterson, I can explain," Tyler tried, voice desperate. "Please don't," I interrupted. "I've heard enough explanations. What I'm interested in now is professional conduct. Patricia, can you grab Tyler's personnel file?" Patricia practically ran out. We sat in uncomfortable silence while Tyler sweated through his suit. I could see stains forming under his arms, his collar getting damp. "You know what's funny, Tyler?" I said conversationally. "I actually liked you when we hired you. Thought you had potential. I had no idea you were the kind of guy who'd disrespect his boss and sleep with his wife. That's poor judgment." "I didn't know," he stammered. "She never said. I thought you were just some nobody who didn't matter." He didn't answer. Patricia came back with the file. I opened it, flipped through pages for effect, then looked up. "It says here employees are expected to maintain professional conduct both during and outside work hours. Would you say throwing money at your boss and propositioning his wife falls under professional conduct?" It was just a joke." "Here's what's happening," I said, closing the file with a thump. "You're fired, effective immediately. Conduct unbecoming of an executive. Clean out your desk within the hour, escorted by security. Your final paycheck will be mailed. Benefits end today. And if you try wrongful termination, my lawyers will discuss your relationship with my wife in court." Tyler's face went from pale to red to pale. "You can't." "I absolutely can. Patricia, call security." "Already texted them," Patricia said. "They'll be here in 2 minutes." We sat in silence. Tyler looked like he wanted to dissolve into the floor. Security arrived and escorted him out. I went back to my office and waited for fallout. It came 3 hours later as a voicemail forwarded to my phone. Tyler's voice, high-pitched and panicked. "You didn't tell me your husband is the owner of my company. You said he was just You said he built grills. I just got fired because of you." I was too busy laughing to hear the rest. The week between Tyler's firing and our court date was watching someone's life fall apart. Jessica tried calling 67 times, each going straight to voicemail because Jack said no contact. She left messages ranging from apologetic to angry to desperate. She tried using the kids as messengers. Ethan shut her down immediately. The twins were less diplomatic. Ryan told her she made her bed. Now she could sleep in it. Sophie hung up after a lecture about personal responsibility. Emma cried, which broke my heart. But even she understood Mom did something wrong. Jessica moved in with her sister Denise. Jack kept me updated on legal maneuvering. Jessica's lawyer, Robert Pemberton, was trying to paint me as controlling, financially overbearing, emotionally distant. They were building a narrative where Jessica was the neglected wife who made one mistake, and I was the tyrannical husband who overreacted. "They're trying to make you the bad guy," Jack warned. "They'll say you humiliated her publicly, misused your authority as her employer. Standard playbook." "Let them try," I said. "We've got 40,000 in receipts." "Oh, we've got more now," Jack said. "Linda found 3 more accounts Jessica opened in her name only. She's been siphoning money for over a year. Total damages close to 70 grand. 70,000? Jack slid a folder across. "Bank statements, transfer records, everything documented. She's cooked." The hearing day arrived. I wore my court suit. Jack met me at courthouse steps, looking sharp, carrying an expensive briefcase. "Remember," he said, "stay calm. Answer directly, don't volunteer information, and don't let them bait you into losing your temper." "I'm calm," I said. I'd moved past anger into something colder and more focused. The courtroom was smaller than expected. Judge Catherine Morrison presided, a woman in her early 60s with steel gray hair and an expression suggesting she'd heard every lie and wasn't impressed. Jessica sat on the other side with Pemberton, wearing a conservative navy dress screaming, "Responsible wife who was wronged." She'd done her makeup to look tired but brave. She wouldn't look at me. Pemberton started strong. He painted Jessica as the devoted wife who'd sacrificed career ambitions to support my business, who'd endured years of emotional neglect. He claimed I was vindictive and controlling, that I'd publicly humiliated her by changing locks and firing Tyler. "Mr. Peterson refuses to communicate," Pemberton said dramatically. "He shut my client out of her own home, denied her access to marital funds, and used his position to destroy a colleague's career out of spite. This is a man who values revenge over reconciliation." Judge Morrison looked at me. "Mr. Peterson, would you like to respond?" "Your Honor," I said, voice level, "I'd like to address the public humiliation claim. My wife humiliated herself when she spent the night in a hotel with another man and came home wearing his jacket with a hickey on her neck. I didn't humiliate her publicly. She did that herself. I just refused to pretend everything was fine." I heard a snort from the gallery. Ethan had insisted on coming. Judge Morrison's lips twitched like she was fighting a smile. "As for the locks," I continued, "I changed them after discovering my wife spent our money on hotel rooms and was having an affair. That's self-preservation. And regarding Mr. Hayes' termination, he was fired for conduct unbecoming an executive, specifically for inappropriate behavior toward his employer's spouse at a company function. That's fireable in any organization. That's a gross mischaracterization." Pemberton started, but Jack stood up with the folder. "If it please the court," Jack said smoothly, "we have documentation that directly contradicts Mr. Pemberton's narrative. May I approach?" Judge Morrison nodded. Jack walked forward with bank statements, credit card receipts, hotel invoices, transfer records. He laid them out like evidence. Each page another nail in Jessica's coffin. The judge started reading, and I watched her expression go from neutral to skeptical to actively annoyed. "Mrs. Peterson," Judge Morrison said, looking up, "can you explain why you charged $43,000 to your husband's business account over 6 months, including multiple hotel stays, expensive dinners, and transfers to an LLC owned by Mr. Tyler Hayes?" Jessica opened her mouth, closed it, looked at her lawyer in panic. Pemberton shuffled papers. "Your Honor, those were legitimate business expenses. At the Riverside Grand 11 times in 4 months on Friday and Saturday nights?" The judge's eyebrow climbed. "That's an interesting business model, counselor." The courtroom got very quiet. I could see Jessica's victim narrative crumbling. Then Judge Morrison asked the question that made everything worth it. "Mrs. Peterson, were you aware Mr. Tyler Hayes was employed by a company owned by your husband?" Silence. Dead. Absolute silence. Jessica stared at her hands. Her lawyer looked like he wanted to be anywhere else. Seconds ticked by. I'll take that as a yes, Judge Morrison said dryly. Or at least you should have known, given you were having an affair with him and using marital funds to support it. Your Honor, my client still deserves equitable division and spousal support. Counselor, Judge Morrison interrupted, your client stole $70,000 from the marital estate to fund an extramarital affair. She's not getting rewarded for that. Here's my ruling. What followed was the most beautiful 15 minutes of my life. Judge Morrison awarded me the house, full ownership. She awarded me the business, both divisions. She awarded me full legal custody with Jessica getting supervised visitation until she could demonstrate stable housing. She ordered Jessica to repay the $70,000 plus legal fees plus court costs. And as for assets Mrs. Peterson will retain, the judge said, looking at the property list with barely concealed amusement, she'll keep her personal belongings, her yoga equipment, and... She paused, squinting. A 2008 Toyota Corolla that Mr. Peterson indicates he was planning to donate to Goodwill. Ethan's laughter echoed through the courtroom. I didn't hide my smile. Jessica looked shocked, tears running down her face. We walked out into December sunshine. Jack clapped me on the back. Ethan gave me a high five. That was better than any movie. Justice usually is, I said, feeling lighter than I had in months. My phone buzzed. A text from Ryan. Mom's crying about the Corolla, best day ever. News traveled fast. I first realized I'd become local legend when I stopped at my gas station and the cashier looked up and said, Yo, you're that smoker guy, the one who fired his wife's boyfriend. That's epic. Yeah, that's me. Everyone's talking about it. My manager saw the court documents online. Someone posted them on Facebook. That part where the judge gave your ex the Corolla you were going to donate? Comedy gold, man. Legend status. He handed me my change with reverence. My mom wants to know if you're single. My phone had been blowing up with calls from people I hadn't heard from in years, all wanting gossip details. The story had achieved meme status. Someone created a motivational poster with my face and the caption, "Respect the man with grease on his hands. He probably signs your paycheck." But the real surprise was when my business phone started ringing off the hook. Kelly had to screen calls because we were getting so many inquiries. Restaurants, backyard enthusiasts, competition pitmasters, even celebrity assistants calling. Everyone wanted a Peterson smoker, not just because they were quality products, but because they wanted to support the guy who'd become the folk hero of wrong spouses. Mike, you've got another one, Kelly said. Gentleman from Memphis wants a premium smoker. Said he read about you in some business blog and respects a man who handles his problems with class and fire. What blog? She showed me an article titled, Tennessee Entrepreneur Turns Personal Betrayal into Business Boom, a Masterclass in Professional Revenge. It had gone viral in barbecue and small business communities. I'm a case study now? I asked. Looks like it, Kelly said. Also, you've got 3 more orders from people who mentioned the article. Your business has literally tripled in the last week. We're going to need to hire more welders. Within 10 days of the court hearing, my order backlog had gone from 2 months to 6 months. The irony wasn't lost on me. Jessica had always been embarrassed that I built barbecue pits, thought it was too blue-collar. Now that blue-collar business was making more money than ever while she drove a beat-up Corolla. That's when inspiration hit. I was in my workshop at 2 a.m. when I realized I could turn this disaster into something productive. Next morning, I called Ethan into my office. My son had taken a gap year and was working for me part-time, discovering he had real talent for social media marketing. I've got an idea, I said, pulling out sketches. New product line, premium smokers, top of the line. We're calling it the Integrity Series. Ethan looked at the designs and started grinning. What makes it different? Each one comes with a custom engraving, I said, showing him the mock-up. Right here on the front panel, built on integrity. He burst out laughing. That's savage. I love it. We could market it as premium smokers for people who value loyalty and quality. Relationships might fail, but good craftsmanship lasts forever. Exactly, and we price them higher. These are statement pieces. Within a week, Ethan had created an entire marketing campaign. He shot videos of me building the smokers, talking about craftsmanship and integrity, never directly mentioning my divorce, but letting the subtext do heavy lifting. He created an Instagram account showing the process, the final products. He even got an influencer, some pitmaster from Texas with 500,000 followers, to feature one of our smokers. The Integrity series sold out before we finished building the first batch. We had pre-orders for 30 units at $5,000 each. 6 months later, life had settled into something that felt like actual living. Spring arrived in Tennessee with obnoxious beauty. Jessica was working at a smaller marketing agency, making half her previous salary. She'd moved into a one-bedroom apartment. The Corolla was still running somehow. Tyler had reportedly fled to Florida to sell boats and hide from shame. According to Nashville gossip, he was at some marina in Tampa selling fishing boats to retirees. My business was thriving in ways I'd never imagined. The Integrity series had become our flagship product with a waiting list stretching into next year. I'd hired 3 new welders, expanded the workshop, and bought the property next door. One evening in late April, I was sitting on my porch with a cold beer watching smoke curl up from my personal smoker where a beautiful brisket was reaching perfection. Ethan came out and joined me with his own beer. "Dad," Ethan said after comfortable silence, "you really handled all that like a pro." I grinned, watching the sunset. "Son, sometimes you don't have to fight fire with fire. You just have to let idiots light the match themselves and stand back far enough to enjoy the show without getting burned." "That's going on a t-shirt," Ethan said, laughing. The stars started appearing. The smoker was running steady, and inside the house I could hear the twins arguing while Emma practiced piano. My home was filled with the sounds of actual life again. Messy, loud, imperfect, but real and honest. As for that dollar bill, it was framed in my office now, hanging right above my desk. Right below it, in a custom metal plaque I'd made myself, was my new company motto: "Respect the man with grease on his hands. He probably signs your paycheck." And business was real good.